What's going on, y'all? It's Dominic here at Screen Static Studios, and welcome to the Iceberg Lounge, the weekly after show that we talk about the Penguin on HBO Max. And it's not just me. I'm not just here by myself. I got a great team with me. And first and foremost, I got my man. He's a great movie reviewer. He got his own channel. He's doing his own thing. It's D Movie Man D. What's going on, man? Oh, you muted. You muted.
Of course I am. I just can't be great today, but that's fine. Thank you so much.
Like, Mondays, man.
Yeah, exactly. But no, thank you so much for having me. This is one I am definitely excited to talk about. So, I mean, I couldn't choose a better place to be.
Man, appreciate you coming through. We're gonna get into it, but first we gotta bring in the other member of our team. Got C the superior, the great and powerful. How you doing, C?
I am happy to be back here to discuss the show. Y'all know I love to talk, and that's exactly what I plan on doing tonight. So, yeah, very excited. Thanks for having me again.
No problem, man. Thank y'all for coming through. And right off the bat, we got to do it. This is how we start off is the overall thoughts. We just got to get general thoughts of how we felt about this episode. We got Sophia, we got a backstory. Almost the entire episode was flashback. So what did you guys think of this episode just generally? D, how did you feel about this episode?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it 100%. And I will say sometimes when it comes to shows and us having episodes that halt the plot in theory, because in theory it was, at least for the majority of it, it wasn't really a continuation of what we saw, a full continuation of what we saw given the end of the last episode. But because I'm someone who loves backstory and I love seeing a character's mindset, ideology, how they came to be, it's what I hope for in a prequel. Don't always get it, but I just love seeing what makes a character tick, what has shaped them into becoming who they are now. And so I think from that standpoint, it gave me everything I needed. And then at the end, I got some other things I didn't know I needed. So yes, definitely high marks for me.
No, definitely, and I'm with you. This was a flashback, and it was kind of like you said, the momentum of the season kind of had to stop. But I think this is one of the more necessary ones because when you finish this episode and then you go rewatch the first time we see Sophia, the way she moves, and now with all of this information, this context takes on a whole nother different level, and that's the best kind of reveals and the best kind of flashbacks is that it changes how you watch the show now. So when you rewatch it, it puts everything into a different perspective. See, how do you feel? How did you feel about this episode?
I've been wanting to get some more information on Sophia since episode 1. If anyone's watching it, check out my channel. I have a short about wanting her to have a potential spinoff in the event that they do additional like villains in the Batman lore or whatever. But I was really satisfied with this episode. I loved seeing just what drove her to be mad, right? And to see that, spoiler alert, that she wasn't crazy to begin with. Again, she wasn't the hangman. She was framed and all that. It was just, it gave me everything that I wanted out of this episode. So yeah, highly satisfied. Great one.
No, this was amazing, and like you said, this was, and they've said already. Matt Reeves and DC and Warner Brothers has said already that they want to expand the Batman lore with other spinoffs and and delving into other characters. So if they don't kill Sophia at the end of this, I would love some more Sophia. I think as much as I love Oz and as much as this is the Penguin, Sophia might be the best character on the show. I think she's the most engaging, and just when she comes on screen, everything halts. And actually she literally does that at the end of this episode. We'll get to that. But we start this episode off with a continuation, like she said, of the last episode. And we started off continuing the scene we saw where the Maronis show up and they got Oz and Sophia kind of cornered, and we see them on their knees, and now we get to see, because last episode we saw Vic's perspective, and this episode we got to see what was actually the conversation around, and we realized that now everything's out. Sophia knows that Oz killed her brother. Sophia knows that Oz has been, you know, on op basically for the whole time. So now that we are in this position, what did you feel about this scene, and how did you feel when you saw like Sophia's reaction, when you saw her look at Oz and like you saw her realization? See, how did you feel when you were watching this scene?
I was just thinking how Oz, like, for one, how was he going to get out of this, out of it this time, right? This is how I feel about Oz after every episode. Like, how's he going to get out of this? And just to see him think on his feet again, like he's so quick with it. As soon as it was kind of disclosed, oh yeah, you guys aren't working together. He killed your brother. You could see the cogs were kind of moving in his brain. And he said, all right, it's too late to try to convince Sophia. Let me just go full ahead. And they're like, yo, I'm on your team. I haven't been to watch him just switch into kind of weigh his options in such a quick time was interesting. He was like, there's no way I'm getting out of it with Sophia now that she knows. So let me align myself where I still potentially have a shot at getting out of this. And it was great TV.
Yeah, man, when she looked at him, I was like, oh, it's over with. I don't know how I was gonna shuck and jive out of this one, but he gonna have to get on the good foot for this one. D, when you saw this scene and you realized what was being said and what was revealed, how did you feel about it?
I will say I was partially sad, only because one, I've been enjoying the cat and mouse of it all, and as was said, I was having to think quick on his feet. But then I kind of, even though it's under false pretenses and it's a messed up situation, I kind of liked Sophia and Oz as a force, as a duo or a trio if you count Vic. But I liked that dynamic, so I was slightly sad that it ended so soon, and that everything got blown up so quickly. Now it's necessary, and I'm interested in seeing like how it progresses. But I was shocked that it happened exactly the way it did. And I think because we get Vic's perspective, I was thinking like, okay, well maybe Vic just ran into the dude and then no one said anything and they didn't figure. And it's like, no, you don't get off that easy. We literally see it all, and there's literally not a doubt in her mind. Like it's all out there. So yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at it as far as like Oz potentially getting his comeuppance, because I mean, Sophia has been lied to continuously, and like the stuff that she's been through is just like, well, I'd rather, she in theory know that it's all, know what's going on. But yeah, but I am going to miss the dynamic we had just built up though.
No, yeah, definitely. And you kind of got to feel for Sophia a little bit, because in all of this, she's innocent. She didn't ask for any of this. She didn't do anything to bring this on to her, except for potentially snitching. But she was innocent, especially didn't deserve 10 years in asylum. So when all of this is going on, you kind of gotta have to feel a little sympathy. I think it's a interesting thing because Oz is our protagonist, so all of our emotion kind of is with him, even though he be doing some shiesty stuff, he be doing some dirty stuff. So it's like, no, even though Sophia's kind of the villain of the season, she up until this point hasn't really done. Now I won't say that hasn't done anything wrong, but she hasn't done anything to deserve the position she was in, and so that's kind of an interesting thing. And so after this scene, we move into the flashback at this point. So because Sophia knocks her head off and she passes out, which is a Taylor's oldest time proven method to like, okay, time for a flashback because it's all a dream. And we flash back to pre Arkham, and we see Sophia, and she's just a regular person. Like she's, as regular as the daughter of a crime boss can be. She's a regular person. She's at a foundation giving speeches. She's not even a confident, Sophia we saw in episode 1. She's kind of timid. She's kind of not sure of herself. She's still kind of finding her way, and she's like a sweet lady. So see, when we see this Sophia, when we go to the flashback and it's revealed that Sophia doesn't seem like she's the hangman. She doesn't seem like a cold-blooded killer. Your initial reaction when we were at the benefit concert and we started to see her and her with her girlfriend and we got to see this version of Sophia. How did you feel?
Um, so when we first saw it and we got to see that, not only was she just, a regular girl, she was exceptional, right? She was the prime to be the next lead of the Falcons. And it's only the fact that she's a woman that was the only thing holding her back, because she was shown to be clearly more capable than her brother. And when we see that she's in there, teeing with her cousin, the cousin who later, we know from the last episode, was trying to catch her up and do everything against her. It just made me feel bad for him. Like, okay, how far she has fallen, right? Unfortunately. And I thought it was important for us to see the fall, like, what for her, like if it would have been she had been crazy this whole time, I feel like it maybe would not have been as interesting to watch. But knowing that she was this exceptional person within her sphere of influence within her family, it just made me wonder at that point when we're in the scene, how, what happened. I had a feeling what might go down, but it's interesting to see how they took it there.
No, definitely. And I would just like to say that I was right. And because I said that she wasn't a hangman, I said that last week. I was like, she is not the hangman. Yeah, no, I was like, she didn't do it. She didn't do it. They just put her in there and putting somebody in the asylum for 10 years will make you crazy. But D, when we got to see this kind of innocent, more innocent Sophia, how did you feel about this? And what was how did it adjust your expectations for the episode?
Well, first, aesthetically, I love the contrast. Just as far as the light, the colors, like just it's about as far away as you can get just visually from what we've seen, as far as Gotham, what we've seen from Sophia, just like everything with that. And so I thought that was a great way to start off. I was also thinking, because I'm a big reader and I love reading about especially as of late, but I love reading about biographies and especially stories about old Hollywood and how people, ascended to fame and things like that. And the thing is, that aspect of the story is enjoyable and it's all interesting, but it's like everybody loves the rise, no one loves the fall. And once you realize the story is like kind of careening or kind of just taking that off ramp into a bad place, it's like, oh, I don't like this. Like, I want to know what happens, but this still doesn't feel good. Especially given how we start off. So yeah, and I will say this, I had kind of forgotten this because the thing is, Oz, he's good at lying. So I was just like, I don't know if this is true or not, but I don't know what episode it was, but it was a previous episode where Vic had referenced Sophia as the hangman, or he had read about the fact that she was the hangman and he realized he made the connection. And Oz basically says, don't believe everything you read in the papers. And it's like, but what does that mean? Like, are you just kind of dismissing that as, maybe there's more to the story, or are you literally saying that may not actually be the case? So to see that literally come to fruition in this episode, especially as was said with her being the heir apparent, and seeing her capability and the promise and how quickly just by, and I think what also surprised me was just what caused the fall in the first place, how minuscule seemingly the action was that led to it.
No, and and that's a great point, and that actually is a great segue into my next little question of the paranoia that comes with being a mob boss, because Sophia just it expressed the tiniest amount of doubt in her father. Like we all said, she was set up to be the heir apparent to this. Oh my goodness. Oh, live show, everybody. But she was set up to be the heir apparent and everything. And it seemed like in a day, it seemed like in a 24-hour time span, she was like, here's the crown, and you are Rhaenyra from Game of Thrones. And then in the And in 24 hours, she was banished to the depths of Arkham Asylum. And all of it hemmed around her just not even accusing her father, but just voicing doubt or concern or like acting like she was close to it. And that's all it took for her fall from grace. And so when we meet Carmine and we find out that that he might have been the hangman, in the sense of like, we know that she isn't the hangman, and we see the flashback of her seeing her mother and seeing the scratches on her, and then she remembers that he had scratches. When we start to come to the realization that it's Carmine that is behind all these murders, what were you starting to think? Did you automatically assume it was going to go here, or did you think that there was another layer of this? Or when she started putting the pieces together, and we as the audience started putting the pieces together, how did you feel? I'm gonna come right back to you. How did you feel about the Carmine Falcone and the dad of it all, being like, oh no, it was him the whole time. It was Carmine all along.
Like, in a way, I shouldn't be surprised, but I guess I didn't think that was going to be the direction. I figured there was going to be another piece or another layer. Not that him being, I mean, it makes sense, but yeah, it was. And I guess maybe the only reason it shocked me was the fact that like her mother, like what was a part of knowing that like that also included her mother as a part of that situation, and just how brazenly and how carefree he was in how he handled all of that. But again, it's like it's hard to accept, but I also have to understand like the rules of that world are not logical. And they like to be a person like Carmine, like it's you almost have to be willing to do anything. And now I don't know what now I'm curious, and that may not lead anywhere, but I'm like, is there something that these women did? Is there another layer to why he did that? Is there, like I'm still wanting to know more in regards to that. But as far as Carmine, even though it shouldn't be shocking, there was an element to it that still shocked me, even though it shouldn't.
See, how did you feel about Carmine being the one behind it all?
Well, first, let me get into formation here, because I feel like now we get a little purple. Secondly, I had so many thoughts. This is one of my favorite scenes of the show, this episode, because as I mentioned before, I went back and watched the Batman recently, right? And so Carmine was joking bitches out then in the movie. So I was like, okay, it's well within his character to, continue that, right? Or this has been something that he's known to do. I don't know if the ladies knew anything, or if it's just like has this compulsion to hurt women on occasion. I don't know what it is. But with him, once he realizes that Sophia knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
A part of me was thinking, dang, he really about to do this to his daughter. But another part of me is like, well, you gotta close the gap, right? You gotta see it through, my guy. So it's like I can only be but so. I don't like him as a person, but I see as the story goes along how it makes sense. And again, if anyone watches Agatha all along, in the last episode, we see that the whole reason why the Salem 7 exists is because she showed mercy, and these were the children of the people that she, unalived. Because she let them live, she lived to regret it. And I feel like that's what was going through Carmine's mind in that moment. Like, if I don't do anything now, she's already talking to the press. She already feels certain type of way that she knows. So he had to do something, right? It's not right, but I can see how in his mind it made sense.
No, yeah, and because you can only be so gracious, and you can only be so good of a person when you're a mob boss, right? And a mob boss that controls the whole city, like you control everything, and that is the hilarious part of my next little segment is Gotham City is the most corrupt city in America, like, and it's unreal the level of corruption, the level of things that have to go on for them to pull off this one thing of getting Sophia into Arkham and getting her to stay there, because not only, and just if you look from the Batman to the Penguin, the levels of corruption are insane, because the former mayor was corrupt, the police are corrupt, the hospital staff is corrupt, on every level of stuff. Just burn Gotham to the ground at this point. Like the Penguin kind of had the right idea. Just wipe it off the map and let's start over, because it's you can't turn a corner without a brazen level of corruption. And we see that immediately. Carmine doesn't even wait for any bad things to happen. He immediately sets all the stuff in motion. And once Oz tells him what's going on, he's like, that's all I need. You only get 2 strikes. You ask me a suspect question and you talking to the press, you out of here. To his own daughter is crazy. The person that you picked to be next up in line is just brushed away without a moment's hesitation. And in this scene, I felt like, one, that's kind of like, all right, if you're gonna be the boss, that's kind of the cutthroatness you have. It's not great. It's not admirable morally, but I think it's necessary when you're in that position and you run the city, apparently. But in this scene, it does seem genuine that Oz didn't know what was going to happen, right? It seems that Oz wasn't sure. He knew that something was going to happen, like he said, but to send your daughter to Arkham Asylum, I think that he thought she was going to get a slap of the wrist, or maybe like what she got when she came home and they was like, let's just go to Sicily, or like, let's just take your butt back to Italy and stay over there. I think he might have thought something like that was going to happen. Did you believe Oz? Did you believe that he did not know specifically what was going to happen to Sophia? And also, do you blame him for telling? Like, as her driver, as her kind of confidant, should he just been driving Miss Daisy, or was he right to tell Carmine?
Okay. So I will say the initial, like when the police, pulled up and everything, I was kind of like, he was just like, oh, what's this? What's going on? I'm like, oh Lord, please don't. I was like, please don't tell me this is you trying to, put on a good face. But then the physicality, of course, when he's trying to push past police, because I don't, who's really trying to like wrestle with police and deal with that? Like, that's not the ideal situation for anybody. So the fact that he had that instinct to do that, knowing, that's not a good thing to do, a less than ideal thing to do. I do think it was one of those things that became bigger than he expected it to. Like you said, like it's I think even in what Oz knows of this world, he probably feels like there's some sense of, I don't know, like there's some sense of, I don't know, that there are likely some boundaries somewhere. Like, surely Carmine wouldn't do this, but then maybe in his own way, he underestimates the person he's actually working for, which I think is interesting. But I think that what it comes down to, which is terrible, but it reminds me that big things have small beginnings. And I feel like when Oz is warning her about, talking to the press and such, and she just snaps and says, like, you're nobody, you're nothing, you're just a driver, don't want to hear from you, thank you, good night. And I feel like, unfortunately, because of the way Oz's mind works, it was kind of like, oh, okay, what can I do now? And then, and of course we see the consequence of that, but I don't think the intended consequence was like what he was thinking about in his mind.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, and that's what I say. It felt genuine, and like you said, I'm not pushing through the police if I don't mean it. This not an act. but see, how did you feel about this interaction with the police and Oz and Sophia and him getting her locked up? How did you feel about that?
So one thing about Oz, right, that I'm coming to realize is that he's not going to let any perceived slight go by, right? He's going to clock it. He's going to write it down, and you're going to get your he going to get back, right? So I think that after she did kind of cut him in the back of when he was driving her, because let me organize my thoughts. Earlier we saw that they almost had like this camaraderie with them. They're like, okay, well, you deserve more. You also deserve more. I'm a woman, but you also won't really get anything because you're not really a part of the family. It was kind of like they had this thing linking them. And
Mhm.
so much so that when people would call him the Penguin, she would say, hey, don't call him that. You know, his name is
Mhm.
Oz. And it seemed that she was on his side. And when she started to show a little bit of that elitism, and probably due to her, she also recently had some issues. I think this was shortly after she spoke with a reporter and was probably kind of like jumpy and scared and overstimulated at that moment. And she kind of um, said these things to us. And once that happened, it was like he couldn't let it slide. So he told the dad. Like everyone was saying, I don't think he knew to what extent Carmine would take it, but he wanted something to happen. He wanted
Mhm.
her to get a little taste of something.
Mhm.
And but yeah, I do feel like he felt guilty knowing what happened, or knowing what happens when she starts to get arrested. And he had to had her back a little bit, because how did Alberto find out so quickly? The next scene we see Alberto's there after she's telling Oz, hey, call Alberto. So yeah, I feel bad. I feel bad for Sophia. I feel bad for Oz, but he definitely wanted something to happen to her, but maybe not necessarily that.
No, yeah, I was gonna get his get back, and whether it's immediate or calculated and come later, I was gonna get his get back. He just made somebody eat their own cell phone. Right? He, he
Mhm.
he is not a turn the other cheek type of brother. But and so we see now that now she gotta go to Arkham.
Mhm.
Now she's in Arkham. Now she's in I guess the women's wing of Arkham Asylum, and it is a jarring experience, like it would be for anybody who's not used to the system. And we see, like you see on the screen, Dr. Feelgood. Dr. Feelgood was an employee of Arkham Asylum,
Mm.
and so that's how they know each other, and that's where. And so we know now that her seeing him in the other episode wasn't some court mandated appointment, and it wasn't her just being like, oh, I need therapy, and signing up on what's the I was gonna say the
Better help.
on betterhelp.com. She didn't go through BetterHelp. She went straight to Old Faithful. And I think we kind of see through the episode and through this man and how he treats her, and how he's not like the head dude. The head dude's corrupt as hell. The head dude is out for this check. Whatever Carmine say, he gonna fall in line and do. Uh, Dr. Juicy Shades
Mhm.
is not on that level yet. He's just trying to be a doctor. He's just trying to help people. And we see him get disillusioned with how Sophia's being treated. And we find out later that he eventually quits Arkham. And but how did you feel? Well, the first the speculate with me. Uh, how does this new information about Dr. Feelgood change their relationship and what you expect from their relationship? Because I tell you, I was expecting when we first saw him that he was going to be like a Hugo Strange type of scenario where he was using hypnotism and he had some type of nefarious ulterior motive, and he was like going to wind her up and send her out like a weapon of mass destruction. I didn't think that there was any romantic tension between them. I thought everything was a manipulation. But through this episode, I'm changing my mind a little bit. So see, how did you feel about Dr. Feelgood, and and how does this episode change your perception of their relationship?
Um, I feel like this man still need to lose his license regardless. He's definitely crossed over some boundaries, in my opinion. And you can see from the moment he saw her enter the room, he was like, like he was thinking about, crossing the line in that very second. So regardless of his,
Have you seen the other women in this prison? I mean, it ain't because
he acting like he did it. He can go home and get the girls and got them. Like he was thirsty over her the moment she came through the door.
saying you
So
at work 12 hours a day. It's rough.
It was already this imbalance from the beginning. It's still inappropriate, regardless of his intentions. And honestly, I don't feel that he. I don't have too much sympathy for him anyway, because even he suspected that she wasn't insane before anything, right? And I feel like he could have done more to help her, knowing that she's getting like these electroshock therapies, and she's being put in these dangerous situations. Uh, with him being a licensed doctor, I feel as if he could have did more. And he didn't do much. He just did enough to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm on your side, baby. Just lay down and take this electric shock." And like, I don't need. I'm on your side, baby. I need help, sir. What are you doing? And it just feels even more inappropriate that they continue this doctor patient relationship outside of Arkham, knowing that there's lines that have been crossed in a way. Like, I don't know. It's giving weird to me. I still don't like them.
No, it's definitely weird, but at the same time, this is Gotham City. Every relationship is weird. We don't have a healthy relationship in Gotham. It don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
The best relationship in this version of Gotham we got is Bruce and Alfred, and their relationship is just a little weird. And so I don't. Are you my dad? Are you my uncle? What are you? You know what I'm saying? So it's, I don't know. I do think that it's more personal than I originally thought. I thought at first he was this was a means to an end for him,
Mm-hmm.
but now I think it's a little bit more personal. D, what did you think of Dr. Juicy Shades and his relationship with Sophia?
So I think I was probably the only one, but I think it was in the last episode where I said that I just thought that there was something obviously not above board about the interaction. I didn't necessarily get full out drugging hypnotism, even though it was off a little, the way she was reacting, of course, was off-putting. But it felt like I don't know, something about it felt like they've had conversations before, or they've like I mean, yes, and as far as the therapy side of things, they're familiar with each other on that level. But I just felt like the way he was calming her down, like there was like a layer to it that was not just, "Oh, I just met you a few months ago," or "We've been in therapy just a few months ago." And I understand people can be inappropriate in that kind of position regardless, but there was just something about it that stood out to me that just felt like, there's some different kind of familiarity here. And so, yeah, and so seeing how that actually played out, in a way, it's not surprising, because I knew there was something else going on there. But I do think it is one of those situations which I kind of realize gets on my nerves, in a lot of stories when you have a character that is the quote unquote noble character or the
Mm.
good one, at the exception of the bunch, but then they don't really do much to really alleviate the situation. Yes, it's good that you recognize that this is wrong, but if you are standing idly by as the wrong is continuing on, well, what does that really make you?
Amen.
Exactly. And then and I think of, when you say that, I think of what and I love saying this because I like messing with C, but with the great and powerful, the best Batman said, Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck, he said, after 20 years in Gotham, how many good people are there really? And then after 20 years, how many stay that way? And I that's what I think about Gotham. Like, is there are any truly good people in Gotham? I mean, it doesn't seem like it. Yeah, if they are, we don't ever meet any, or they always die. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Vic's parents were really good, but then they get
Mhm.
washed away. And so, good people don't last in Gotham, and they take nice guys finish last in Gotham as scripture at this point. Eh, but we now we're in Arkham, and at this point, initially, she's only in Arkham for 6 months. She's just waiting for trial. She's biding her time, and I feel like that's what her mentality is. After the initial shock of it all, she kind of is like, "All right, I'm just gonna sit here. I'm gonna bide my time, and and in 6 months, I'm gonna go to trial and I'm gonna get out, right?" And then we meet this chick who is who we find out was the person singing in the flashback when with the dream state the last time in the episode, where people thought she was Harley Quinn And I think even when she was in the beginning of this episode, when she was kind of talking through the wall, I think people might have thought that it was Harley Quinn, but we find out that no, this is a character called Magpie, who is a Harley Quinn variant at this point. You know what I'm saying? Magpie is an ancillary Batman character. She was in I think she was in the Gotham TV show, and then she showed up in this one season animated show called Beware the Batman in a more prominent role. But she's a background. She's more obscure than the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, she's a background character, but she's really cool. But Magpie in this show, I think they don't really confirm it, but it's like she is working with the doctors as like a secret agent to try and like befriend Sophia and get her more accustomed and complacent to stay here. And the Arkham of it all, because I don't know what year this takes place. Apparently, it's supposed to be 2022. This is right after the Batman, but they still doing electroshock therapy and hosing people down. And so I don't know what year this is supposed to be, or
12 then, if she was in there for 10 years.
Yeah. At this point, this would be like 2012. You're right. You're right. I forget this is a flashback. Still, they stopped electroshock therapy in like the 70s. So I don't know. Gotham is just a no man's land of rules and regulations. Like OSHA, all of these regulatory facilities just fly right over Gotham. But that's why we need the Batman, apparently. But let's just talk about the whole stint in Arkham, because we have the 6-month period, and then we have the point where we find out she's going to stay, where you don't get a trial, you're going to stay. And so, D, how did you feel about Magpie? We do get the introduction to the proto Bliss, like what she got Bliss from. We see Magpie take it. So, D, how did you feel about the initial Arkham of it all and her response to that, like how they treated her and all this type of stuff?
It's always interesting seeing different interpretations of Arkham, because of course my initial awareness of Arkham, because I don't believe it showed up in the first 2 Tim Burton films, but definitely once we get over to Forever, and seeing their how their take on Arkham is and how gothic and over the top it is, and of course then kind of stepping into the more realistic side of things. And I thought the design was really interesting. I think they were also talking about they used like this octagonal structure for the hallways, and just kind of leaning into the what's the word?
The set design?
Say again?
The set design?
I mean, yes, the set design, but the claustrophobic nature of what it is to be there. And now I don't know why. I think it was the music cue that threw me off, because I wasn't sure who it was at first, but they were playing music that sounded like the music that played when we saw Selena in Batman Returns. So I was just like, but that doesn't. So obviously I was wrong about that. But for a second, I was just like, I know that's not. I think it was just a similarity in the way that they use the music. But yeah, I think the thing is, and maybe that's intentional or not, but I do think the treatment is just another example of how there are no real rules or regulations when it comes to Gotham, and that, like anything goes, because this isn't something that would be used to treat. And then also, honestly, I thought about it as well. Let's just say hypothetically, it's not something they use anymore. I could also see where they would make an exception, because they have a goal in mind for Sophia regardless. So even if it's not something they normally do, like, okay, well, this is a special case, we need to erase this information or try to get as close as we can to really like snapping her out of reality and all of that. So yeah, I mean, it was brutal. It was not pleasant to see, but understanding like what the end game was, as unpleasant as it was, I understand why that was a part of the so-called program.
Yeah, that would be extra diabolical if they were like, "Oh, we got Sophia coming. Let me dust off this old electroshock therapy machine. Does this still work? And then just jury rig it just for her. That's oh man, that just makes it extra sad. See, how did you feel about her getting shocked and hosed and how did you feel about the imagery of her peeling off the wallpaper and it slowly being her mother's bedroom and that like signifying the descent, I guess her descent into madness or into, realizing she's stuck here. How did you feel about all of that?
Okay, a couple of things. I wanted to touch on Magpie before we leave her behind because I felt like she was definitely doing like her best Harley Quinn impersonation, Magpie. But also, I feel as if, again, I'm going to pull it back to my theory of they're slowly trying to introduce Poison Ivy because Magpie was she was like inmate or she was in the cell with Poison Ivy. They know each other, right? We see the peel, the bliss things, right, from the mushrooms or from the last episode. We see them here. So I'm feeling like, again, it's about to be some Poison Ivy action that's going to either take place in this show or possibly in the Batman 2. But when it comes to Sophia and her being treated with the electroshock therapy and her slowly descending into madness due to that. I thought it was, I didn't even put it together that, oh yeah, they don't even do electric shock therapy anymore. But I think it may be just a callback to maybe the original Batman, like the comic books came out like 1930s. Were they still doing electric shock therapy at that time? I'm not sure,
probably.
maybe.
Yeah.
And also a callback to how women who were perfectly sane were kind of put in these loony bins for being too knowledgeable or too difficult. And they would treat those women with electric shock therapy and lobotomies and everything else. So I thought it was interesting to see that on screen. And when it came to what happens to Magpie and Sophia kind of putting together that she's been working with the doctor the whole time, I'm not sure if that's the case because at this point, she's already had several sessions of the electroshock therapy. We see that she's slightly starting to lose her mind with peeling off of the walls. And we find out that that's not really the case. She's hallucinating that whole thing. There's nothing behind those walls. So I don't even know if Magpie really deserved the ending that she got. She might have not even been doing all of that. But it's so open-ended that we don't know. So I like that they kind of left that open-ended. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
No, and I agree with you. I like that it's kind of left to us to determine, like, is this something that she's hallucinating or is this something that really happened? And because at the end of the day, that just means that she's kind of embraced her lunacy almost. Like, you want me to be insane, so let me be insane. Which now, once we get through the Arkham stint, right? Once we brave a decade of a sane person in an insane asylum, I don't think there's anybody who could come out of that with the same level of sanity as when they went in. Just because I can't look at this desaturated room for 10 years and not ruin my mind. I need a little vibrancy. But we see her come out, and I want to talk about her release because the episode bookends in the present day. So we start the episode in the present day and we end the episode in the present day. And we see her as she's out, and we don't. She saves Oz for later. She doesn't immediately go and get her retribution on Oz because, like she said in the episode, she doesn't have anything. She doesn't have anybody. She doesn't have any resources. The family doesn't want anything to do with her. And so she calls the only person that she really can at this point, and that's good old Dr. Feelgood. And so she wakes up in Dr. Feelgood's house and wearing his clothes, and he's making breakfast. And she kind of, in my mind, she kind of treats him like she treated Oz when Oz was waiting outside the door when she was talking to her uncle and she came out and Oz was right there like, hey, Sophia, I'm I'm on your side, man. And she kind of read him up and down and was like, "You sorry son of a." I felt like she kind of did the same thing with him. It was like, "I see right through you. Like I see how you look at me. I see the way you see me. And what is this about?" And honestly, this interaction made me feel like what I assumed was going to happen is kind of the opposite. Where I thought that he was going to be manipulating her and controlling her, it might be the inverse, in the sense of, because men will do anything for the right passage, and so he might she might be having him wrapped around her finger and be gearing him up to be useful for her purposes. But when she woke up at Dr. Rush's apartment or house, this is a very nice house. D, what did you think about this? And from the first time we saw them to now, with all this new information and with her kind of new awareness, how did you see this scene going?
I do think that part of this is that I do think part of the situation is that the tables may have turned a little bit, and I think that Sophia's awareness of of the good doctor, so to speak. I think now I don't know what that will be as of yet, but I feel like at this point the doctor is going to be a means to an end. And I feel like she is recognizing that, and I feel like even the fact that even in what's happening right here, how she kind of recognizes what his affinity for her is and all that. I think she recognizes that she's in a prime position to really make use of him. And even how, shoot, I mean, she was able to call on him to get her out of this really, perilous situation. She was, passed out, knocked out, could have, lost her life. And then she wakes up and then all is well. So I think it is one of those things where it's like, what's the word? Almost like in therapy, like there is a specific boundary. Of course, I can't think of the actual term, but there's an actual boundary that's in place between the patient and then the therapist. And now that those lines are all but non-existent, I just think now she just sees a prime opportunity, and I think it comes down to what she's going to make use of that for and why.
No, I definitely feel it. Yeah, those patient doctor boundaries are non-existent. Because you can't sleep on my couch and wear my clothes. That ain't that right there ain't kosher. See, how did you feel about this interaction and this point in Sophia's development and where she is in the show?
I feel that he is still being her therapist, is still in this place of power over her, regardless of her capability and her, I guess, genius in a way, because she's very smart. She's not easily manipulated. I do think that there was probably a point, maybe following what we see in the flashback, that she realizes that if I have to be here, I may have to do certain things in to gain favor and do certain things. So I feel like she probably did play into his clear desire for her, because it was obvious that he wanted her, right? And when you're in a predicament like this, I assume you would have to do what you had to do. Girl had to survive. She had to, fight people. She had to do things that she wouldn't normally do. And she probably did have to somewhat seduce this doctor in order to gain her freedom in a way, because he did mention in the scene that he helped her brother get her out. And I don't know to what capacity or to what extent, but yeah, I feel like, she probably did use some of her ways, her womanly ways, to get certain privileges, but it was only because, Your Honor, he blurred the line first. He overstepped first, and she's a victim. She had to do what she had to do in Arkham Asylum. Okay.
Hey, yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive, man. We not blaming Sophia in none of this right now. In this episode, I'm not blaming Sophia in nothing. Um, let me I'm looking at my slides. We so now after this, every I feel like every time she leaves this doctor's office, she has like some grand declaration, and somebody's about to get it. Like, you know what I'm saying? When she left the first time, she was like, "I'm home, not safe," and it was like, "Oh, it's on." And now she leave it again, and it's like, "Oh, it's on." And now she stepped into her femme fatale bag. Like when, because the very next scene, we having a very nice family dinner. It's a very nice mafia dinner, very wholesome, very mindful. And she walks in and just immediately shuts it down. And literally, people stop. All you can hear is glass tinking and people coughing. She walks in and turn heads. And now we see that, and it was at this point I'm like, oh, this is over with. I don't know what's about to happen, but these people are in trouble. And so we see her speech and how she kind of like talks everybody down, and then we see the aftermath of her saving the child. And well, she leads the child to the botanical garden and has like a little sleepover with her. And come to find out, I thought that she was going to wait. And see, this is how good this episode was, because I thought she was going to wait till the daughter like went to sleep and then go upstairs and like violently kill everybody. But I must not knew who I was talking about. This is Sophia. Sophia don't get her. She's not finna do all this extra work. She gonna think smarter, not harder. So she went to sleep with this little girl, and everybody else is already done. It's over with, except for Johnny Vitti. She had lifted up his. Now this was a TV thing, and it stuck out to me because before the dinner, she like lifts up the window. So when she does her little plan of gassing everybody, his window's open so he doesn't get gassed, so he doesn't die, right? And I'm like, I don't know who these Italians are, but if I come into my bedroom to go to sleep and I didn't have that window open, I'm just gonna shut it. Like, how did she know he wasn't gonna shut the window before he went to bed? I did, but it just because I'm like, I'm shutting the window. You're not gonna have a bird fly in while I'm sleeping. but she saves everybody, except, or she kills everybody except the girl and Johnny Vitti, and we'll talk about what that means in a second. But the how did you feel about this Last Supper?
Uh-huh.
And how did you feel about her saving the child and just this whole part of the episode? Like, really, what does this mean?
When she did her speech, right?
Mm-hmm.
For one, I like that she kind of came into herself. She's wearing this, fantastic dress. She's looking crazy a little bit, but glamorously crazy, right? Like a Lady Gaga or whatever, if you will, right? And I like that she's, as we see throughout the episode, she's like, okay, if you're going to paint me as crazy, I'm going to show you crazy, right? This is when we really going to get to some crazy stuff. And her acknowledging in her speech the victims while also acknowledging that she is a victim herself, a victim of her family. I thought that was important for her to at least for us to hear and for her to verbalize to the people in the room who did have such a big part in her torture and her downfall and her getting into Arkham. When it came to the girl, I don't know about y'all, but the whole time I was saying, is she about to kill this little girl? This is what I thought she was about to take the little girl out, and like as like her revenge. But I was glad to see, like, even in the morning when they slept in the botanical gardens or whatever, and she woke up, I was thinking the girl ain't moving. When is the girl gonna move? What's going on? And she finally moved, and I was like, okay, bet she didn't kill the girl. But she had this whole plan, to gas them and kill them in their sleep. Like, what a genius! What a thinker! Let's tip our hat to the thinker that is Sophia. And I wonder how it ends. I wonder what she has in store for Vinny. Like, why save him out of all the people? Why him? And was it because he's made the call to the triads, or like, what is it? Because everybody else is dead. Why save this guy? I want to know when we get into the next episode. But Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I'm curious. Well, I feel like, she saved them because you need somebody to give her legitimacy. You need somebody who knows how the business works to like be your stamp of approval. I wonder how that's gonna work because now that the uncle's dead, you don't really have the leverage of him sleeping with the uncle's wife
Mm.
to work with you. So I'm curious how that dynamic is gonna go. D, how did the Last Supper, the femme fatale Sophia saving the child, gassing the entire house? Tell me something. What's going on?
Well, first, let me say, and I don't know the specifics. I mean, to me, I kind of, this is something I personally picked up on, but I thought the color of the gown was interesting because I noticed that when she was arrested, there was some kind of similar color there, kind of like a lime yellow something, like something similar there. And so, but then of course with this one, you have like all the appliques and the pattern that's over it. And still it's very conservative in a sense. You have, her hair is long and it's covering a lot. And so the I thought the 180, as far as like, her hair is short, her body is, like the way the gown is cut and how it seems to be a similar color, but just the look of it. And even I think they had mentioned in the featurette how like her makeup is almost like war paint, which
Mm.
definitely makes sense given what we see. But I love a speech. I really do. I love a send off. I love when characters, and I'm a dialogue person also, and I think that's another thing that I enjoy about this series. Like some people aren't into like slow, character building monologues and things like that, but I absolutely love it. And so I love the fact that for more reasons than just this moment, this is her closure, so to speak. It's like, okay, honestly, what I thought about, especially once I got to the very end, I thought about the end of Age of Ultron when we see Thanos grabbing the Infinity Gauntlet and then saying like, okay, I'll just do it myself. And that's definitely what this was giving me. It's just like, okay, like let's just look, we've tried all these different avenues. I tried Oz, I did this, I did that. Okay, let's just let's bring this to a close and let's be done with this. And I love the fact that she was able to actually voice all of this and now say, like, okay, you got to hear all this, and now we're done. And honestly, there are a couple of things I thought. When I was like, is she going to kidnap? Like she's going to kidnap um her, and then what's going to come? And then I was wrong about that. Then when she woke up in the greenhouse, I was like, is she going to set something off so that the house either bursts into flame or explodes? And that wasn't it. So then when I realized what she had actually done, and I knew it was something because as soon as Sarah Vaughan's So Long My Love started playing, I was like, okay. Like if I had any doubt, as soon as that song, I didn't even need to see what she was about to do. I just knew as soon as the song played, I was like, okay, well there's that. Because I wasn't even sure what the outcome was going to be, but I didn't think it was going to be this. So for her to do it in that way and to just completely obliterate this entire family except Vidi. I mean, I'm sorry, like bravo. I'm just like, listen, I don't know. I was taken aback. I was caught unawares, but it was a moment I didn't know I needed, and it came together so perfectly. And with this song out of all songs playing in the background, I was totally here for it.
No, me too. And then you said something that resonated with me as far as well with like you thought that she was kidnapping the girl, and I was like, see that there goes C's poison ivy because she's gonna wake up in the botanical gardens, realize her mom's dead, and now she's gonna be poison ivy like that. There you go. but but also like that little girl doesn't have a mother or father anymore, so maybe Fiona does adopt. I mean Sophia. Maybe Sophia does adopt her because I mean where is she gonna go? and now she's gonna raise up her own little mini heir and make this a matriarchy. And the Falcons are now matriarchy. I could see it because I don't know where. Because if the young girl just disappears and she just puts up with another family member, I feel like that's a missed opportunity. Go ahead. Oz got somebody he's training. Yeah, Oz got a mob Robin. Sophia can have a mob Robin, and everybody gets a Robin before Batman in this universe. But and then you said something else about because you said you like the slower pace and the dialogue and all that type of stuff, which I do too. I'm a big sucker for good dialogue. This show is very well written, especially when it comes to Sophia. And that's the great thing about the show is I don't feel like it's slow. Like honestly, when the show began, and I was like, oh, Sophia realized that I was behind. That reveal happened a lot earlier than I thought it was going to. I didn't think that we were going to have the reveal of everything and everything beyond the open right in this beginning. So I'm like, oh, so the rest of the season is just going to be like Sophia versus Oz. Mm-hmm. And I very much hope they don't kill her. Like, I don't know who's going to be on top. At this point, I don't know if I want Oz to win. Like, I just let Sophia be the head of the family and just call the next season, the next spinoff, The Hangman. Like, I'll watch it. I promise you I'll watch it.
Yeah.
But now I want to ask about, because now it's theory time. And we got to speculate. We got to guess about what's going to happen. So, see, I'm coming to you first, but I'm going to vent a little bit so you have time to formulate your thoughts. But I want to know about, one, the immediate future. What you think is going to happen with Sophia, Johnny Vitti, and the family? Like, is it going to be, like, how is that transition of power going to be? And then I want to know on the other end of it, because I haven't seen the little sneak preview for episode 5. I haven't watched it yet. So I don't know all of what's good they're going to focus on. But what's going to happen with Sophia and Johnny Vitti and the family? And then what is Oz doing? And what machinations are he doing? Because we have the family is split. Because you have people that's going to be loyal to Oz, but you have Johnny Vitti and the rightful Anna Falcone, who's going to try to assume power. And then you have this new drug, Bliss, in the middle of it. And who's going to control Bliss? Who's going to come out? And when we get to the next episode, who's going to have the most power in the beginning? Before we get to the end of this show, who do you think is going to come out in the lead coming up for this show? See, what do you think?
Okay, so a couple things. I think that if I know anything about the mafia via many movies that I've seen, I know that there's like different factions. So maybe she saved Vitti to sort of legitimize her, I guess, call for the cavalry wherever they may be, if they're in Sicily or whatever, or what another city over. She's clearly going to need some manpower. And I feel like she's going to possibly connect with some faction of the Falcone Mafia in another city to bring them into Gotham. But with that being said, I feel like she also may reach out to the Triad, because at this point they've purchased Bliss, right? They're down for the Bliss connection. And she still has the facility that's growing Bliss. I don't think that wasn't Oz who put that together, that was her. So she's going to maybe connect with her Falcone folks and the Triad. Now, when it comes to Oz, we saw in like the preview that he seems to be trying to put together a little, faction for himself, a little group of lost boys, and make them into some sort of mafia. So, and I'm unsure what the status is of, y'all help me with this name. I keep trying to call them the macaronis, but I know it's not.
The Maronis.
The Maronis. So I don't know if Mama Maroni, if she survived or not. Maybe he would still, in whatever fashion, in his quick thinking fashion, will still be able to maybe convince that Sophia is the one who shot at her and like, kind of gloss over this whole situation, so he can still align himself in some way with the with that family.
Right.
So I think, yeah, it's just going to be like a kind of like gang war over who can get each other, like who can they align. I feel like it's going to be the Triads and the Falcons against um you know who, and Oz and his boys that he's putting together. And I think that's how the rest of the season is going to go.
Okay. So Gotham's gonna be split down the middle. So we're gonna have
Uh-huh.
They've been talking about a gang war, and we've seen a little bit of a gang war, but we might actually see an actual like Sons of Anarchy type of like actual gang war in Gotham. Which can the Batman stop that? I'm just playing. I know he's not showing up in the show. I'm just saying they making a lot of noise for the Batman not to show up. D, how do you feel about what do you think? What do you think is going to be the dynamic of the different characters and where they're going to be when we get into the next episode?
Now, number one, let me just say that I am often terrible at predictions, so I would just like to make that disclaimer. But I I will. Here's one thing I do think will happen. I don't know quite how it will happen, but I feel like it's going to happen. I feel like at some point, maybe at the latter end of the season, but I feel like at some point, Sophia will find a way to use Vic against Oz. I'm not sure what, like I said, I don't know what that's going to look like, and I don't know what circumstances will cause that to happen, but I feel like there will be an opportunity for Vic to do something with all the things that Oz has taught him, and I think Sophia will recognize an opportunity in doing something with Vic. Either maybe not to Vic, but I think there's something she's going to find a way to do. Like she's going to figure something out as far as Vic. So I'm interested in seeing if that prediction is correct. As far as Vidi, yeah, I can't see the benefit to him outside of his connection to the rest of the family or his connection to the rest of the mafia. Like there has to be something there because like as was like out of all the people to keep alive, but there has to be a purpose there because I think I would say out of everybody, Vidi has probably been the most like disrespectful, especially as far as like openly. So yeah, so I'm interested in seeing like how that's going to play out, but it's definitely going to be his affiliations and like who he knows. Like it's going to definitely bounce. It's going to bounce off of that. And then Oz, I'm really curious to see like how Oz is gonna get out of this. I'll be honest and say I don't really have a clear idea when it comes to Oz because it's just like it's the worst possible situation. Now the whole point is that he's able to still get out of these situations, but with him being exposed on both ends, I'm just like, what is the next step? So I know he's gonna figure something out, but as far as how, I'm not quite sure. It's just like when I would watch the episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it'd be to be continued, and it's just like, how are you going to like? No, I mean, and I would be shocked when they would come up with a way to continue the story. And so, yeah, that's how.
And it's actually funny that you brought up Yu-Gi-Oh! Because they go use the same method because Yu-Gi-Oh! Always cheated. That's how he got out of the situations. He cheated. And that's exactly what Oz is going to do is he's just going to swindle his way out of it. So that was a very apt comparison. I think I agree with you. I think you're kind of spot on with Sophia's going to use Vic in some way. I think that she is going to do something to Vic. I think that he's still green in this world, that he can't stand up to torture or intimidation or the threat of torture. And so I think she's going to press Vic for information or just to use him against Oz. And then that's how she's going to find out that Oz's mom is alive. That's what I think is going to happen. I think Sophia's going to find out. Yeah, Sophia's going to find out that, Mama Oz, Mama Cobb is alive. And she going to make that train ride. And then Oz is just going to bust through the door and she going to be gone. And it's going to be the drama. The drama. And this is a limited series, so I know they're not going to do this. But there is I'm a big Sons of Anarchy fan. And there was some mafia stuff going on in that show where they were getting into it with the Irish mob. And the season finale was the main character, Jax, like running to the dock because they had stole his son. and he's just at the dock looking at the boat with his son go off into the distance, and he just cries, and that's how the season ends. And I was like, that's just good TV. And I'm like, they're not gonna leave the season off on that type of cliffhanger because it's supposed to be a limited series, but it would be interesting to see them press on Oz's pressure point in a way that we haven't seen before, because this is really the only thing that Oz cares about on that deep of a level. And I think that because Oz is just as clever as Sophia, because Oz was tricking her, Oz was manipulating her for a time, and I think that Sophia thinks that she has a monopoly on being unhinged and gruesome and cruel. And so I think she's going to go there with Oz's mom. I think that is going to be the birth of the Penguin, the supervillain. I think when Mama Cobb dies, then we're going to see that. Then that's where we're going to see Oz turn into him owning the Penguin name, and him like being the smoking top hat Ice Club Lounge owning Penguin with the machine gun and umbrella. Like, I think that's gonna be his final evolution. And so, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Do you think on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely do you think C it is that Sophia survives? So on a scale of 1, she's dead. On a scale of 10, she is the star of her own spinoff.
Okay.
Well, on that scale, where do you how do you rate her survival rate?
So after this episode, and well, let me not say after seeing the kind of preview trailer for the next episode, I feel as if she may survive the season because somebody has to head the Falcons, right? And if it's not going to be Penguin by hook or crook, he's going to start his own, mafia in a way. Who's going to be there to lead the Falcons? It's going to have to be her, I think. So I think she's going to survive. That's my prediction.
Okay, I'm with it. D, how do we feel? 1 to 10. How do you rate her survival rate?
I'm putting it at a 7. I would say maybe before this episode it would have been a little bit lower, as far as her potentially surviving, because I don't know, I could see it being some kind of full circle moment, kind of like if you've seen Black Swan. It's like, oh, there's only one way this can end. Like, this is the reality versus the fantasy. Like, one is taken over and then it ends in the way that only I wasn't sure if that's what the direction they were going to go in, but I feel like, and I think, of course, that's besides the point, but because we do have an overarching story in the Batman, I do think they may have considered leaving the door open for that as well. So I was kind of thought about that anyway, but I just think as we go along, I don't know if they knew Sophia or maybe they did know, and they just knew. Because I already knew. I will say this: once Kristen Milioti, I was already interested in this, but I'm not gonna lie. Like, when I realized she was going to be a part of this, I was like, oh, my interest level just went up exponentially. So I do think that for a lot of people, whether they realize it or not, or whether the creators realize it or not, she's definitely a character that is going to steal Oz's shine. So I don't think they're going to waste her. Not that it would be a waste, because she was still great regardless, but I feel like they're going to find a way to continue this, because the world of the Batman is already so far reaching that just to add her into that bigger picture, I think would be intriguing.
And that's a little bit what I'm worried about, because unless they saw it like while they were shooting and was like, oh no, this is going to be something bigger than we anticipated, let's change it. Because this isn't network TV, you know what I'm saying, where you got 22 episodes and you take a winter break. So if some character is popping off real popular in the beginning of the season, you can just rework it at the later half to make sure they don't die, even though they were supposed to like die at the end. And so you can't really do that because it's only so many episodes. They're already shot and you're just putting them out. So if they had anticipated her dying, and that they can't, it's hard to be like, unless they let her die in a vague way, like falling into the river or something like that, it's kind of hard to backtrack now. So I hope that they just saw it as that, as she was on set and being so magnificent, they were like, nah, we got to keep her around.
Right.
Two more questions, and then we'll wrap up. One is, what is your theory? Because I'm a speculative. I love a good speculation. Give me your best theory for what is a villain that okay, let me put it like this. If, let's say, there's a villain that's going to show up in this show, and then but they're a background villain, and then they're going to really be more prominent in the Batman 2. Maybe not the main villain in the Batman 2, but just more prominent in the Batman 2, like Penguin was in the first Batman. If there was any character, not necessarily a villain, but any character that you could foresee showing up in this show that might get more prominence in the next Batman movie, who would it be? I can already guess what C's gonna say. But C, you go first. What are you gonna say? Who do you
I'm
think?
saying Poison Ivy. I'm saying it now. I'm saying it loud. It's going to be Poison Ivy, in my opinion. If she doesn't make an appearance in this show, I'm going to be highly upset. But not even so. I feel like even if she doesn't make an appearance in the show, they setting her up for Batman 2. I'm saying it here. I'm saying it now. Maybe not as the main villain, but she's gonna make an appearance. She's gonna be in there somehow when it comes to Bliss and all of this other thing. So yeah.
And I think that's a good pick. And I think Poison Ivy is higher on the probability that I think most people give it credit for it, only because in this Matt Reeves Batman world, I think Poison Ivy is easier to make grounded, like the Riddler, than a lot of other typical Batman villains. I think Mr. Freeze, you really got to work hard to make him grounded. I think Two-Face, you got to shake some stuff up to make them grounded, and also be a Batman level threat to carry a whole movie. Because even in the Dark Knight, Two-Face wasn't the main. You had 3 villains in that movie, and they were all, and you know what I'm saying, and 2 of them were overshadowed by the Joker. And so to make them grounded and realistic to fit in this world, but also imposing and dangerous enough to facilitate the Batman spending the whole movie trying to stop him, I think it's difficult for a lot of his villains. And I think Poison Ivy, just changing her to like a bioterrorist, would be an easy thing to do. But D, who do you think? Who do you think might be somebody that they introduce in this show, and then to have a more prominent role in the Batman movie?
Obviously, if you're going to take a realistic approach, there's no better choice than Man-Bat. I mean, come on.
Oh, I could see, man. That's a deep cut. I like Man-Bat, and then doing like this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of scientist gone wrong aspect of it could be that could be interesting.
So I was actually joking, but I'm glad that you were able to,
I'm gonna make anything work. I'm gonna make anything work. I'm gonna make it work.
Yeah, I would love to see how they would make Man-Bat work, but no, I was thinking the 3 that came to mind: Deadshot, Black Mask, and Deathstroke.
Ooh, I heard it's going to be a Deathstroke movie. Deathstroke.
Yeah, they did. They
Bane.
did announce, and Bane. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. So, and that may not have anything to do with this particular vision, but because I'm partly looking at realistic villains, I do think they could find a way to tie that in. Oh, and we also did discuss this, but I'm assuming at some point, I don't know when or what would be considered too soon, but I do know the Court of Owls could easily factor into this at some point.
I would love to see the Court of Owls. But I wish, and they might have, I don't know. But the Court of Owls is such a big threat, and I would have liked to see them like start the breadcrumbs in the first Batman, and then the Court of Owls be like a third Batman movie villain.
Right.
Like that to me, that's the thing that needs to be built up. Just because their whole thing is that they've had their hand in everything that Gotham does. And so, but I would love to see a live action Court of Owls. That would be amazing. I think Deathstroke makes the most sense, honestly, because all you need is somebody putting a hit out on Batman, and then you have your movie. And so, because the detective part is like who hired him, and then but you have the action part of I got to fight Deathstroke. So I could see that. Deathstroke might take my Poison Ivy. I was thinking because I was on Poison Ivy train with Deathstroke.
Batman have multiple villains now. They known for
That's
having
true.
multiple villains.
That's
So.
true. They will have multiple villains in the movie. All right, true. The Robert Pattinson. Oh no, he had Penguin and Riddler. So yeah,
And
they and Falcone. Yeah, so they will have multiple villains in the movie. They are not shy about that. So my theory is I'm still stuck on the Poison Ivy train. I think that's a good pick. I could see, like, especially with the Penguin and dropping the Bliss and and I think in the aftermath of the Riddler together, because what I think whatever happens in Batman's 2 is going to build off of the tragedy of what happened in the first Batman movie. So the aftermath of what the Riddler did, and we see how that plays into the Penguin and then how down and out. And in the Penguin, we're focusing on the people and how down and out the people are, and how Gotham affects the people. And I think what Poison Ivy bringing into it would, one, giving Batman a female villain would shake things up again. Another green villain might not be where they want to go, but doing a kind of somebody who's out there to save the world, like Riddler was, but has a twisted version of it, is all my favorite villains. That's probably why I'm picking it, because the villains that think they're right are the more interesting ones to me. So I think that's where I start leaning towards a Poison Ivy. But I'm cool for a Deathstroke. I'm cool for a Talon from the Court of Owls. Do you want? This is now. I got two more. Now I lied. This was supposed to be the last one, but I got two more now. For real. Do you want Batman 2? Do you want any version or any hint of a Robin to show up?
I don't think that will happen. Like, I would want it, but I don't think it'll happen, only because we're in year 2 of him being Batman. And also because James Gunn mentioned that he is going to be making a movie featuring Damian Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's already going to, like, I know he won't, they have multiple movies with multiple characters at the same time, but I don't feel like that's the direction that we're headed to in this version of the Batman. So I'm going to say no, but I also want to know if you guys feel like this will be a Christmas movie, because we already in the November, but is it going to be a Christmas classic? Is it going to be Christmas in Gotham? We can watch this every year. Christmas is going to be like Die Hard. Everyone's calling it a Christmas movie.
I would love that. I would love that, especially if you made it like, if you made Mr. Freeze the villain and had Batman premiere Christmas time. That would be kind of cool. Have it be like a Christmas horror thriller. That would be kind of cool. But do you anticipate any hint or introduction of a Robin, and is that something you would want?
The only reason I would not want it, and it kind of depends. Like, it kind of depends on the execution. Like, if they can do it in a way to where it doesn't feel like there's a way to do those things in a way that does not feel like I don't know, like we're like patting ourselves to the back, like, oh my gosh, guess who this is? Like, there's a way to do it in a way that feels organic, or like narratively, I don't want to say narratively unique, but just something that fits the narrative, that flows with the story, rather than be like, like, there's a way to do it. There's a right way and a wrong way. So I would say, like, I'm not mad at it, but if he doesn't serve the narrative of the second film, and as was said by C, with Bruce beginning this journey, maybe hinting at him is one thing, but I would say it might have to be a minute before he really factors in significantly, even if it just is a brief appearance.
Yeah, and I'm very hard on live action Batman having a Robin. It's because every new Batman iteration we get tries to be more grounded, and the more realistic you make it, the less believable it is that you would have a 10 or 12-year-old out here fighting crime. It's very, and so I mean, I'm not saying, like you said, it all comes down to execution. So there's ways you could do it, but I think that you would have to, in my mind, if you're going to do it, it would have to be in a situation where it's like Batgirl or Damian Wayne's introduction, where it's like with Batgirl, it was like, I'm gonna train you because you out here doing it on your own, and so you're gonna do it anyway. So let me give you some guidance and some tools so you don't get yourself killed. And Damien, I'm like, you came to me as a little assassin, so being a vigilante is a step in the reasonable direction, honestly. But just like him going to a circus and seeing a boy get orphaned and that being the new Robin, I think in this world just wouldn't seem like, yeah, I don't understand how I'm still supposed to look at you as the good guy when you do that. And so I mean, like I said, they could do it. I would be fine if the end of Batman 2 shows Bruce Wayne going to the circus and he just walks into the tent and then the movie ends. Like if that's the Robin hit we get, I'll be fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, actual last question. And this is one that I'm gonna ask every week, even though D, I know you not watching Agatha all along. So we will just see how likely you choose how how your guesses change week to week. But last week I asked, would you rather have an apprentice? Who would you rather apprentice under? Would you rather be an apprentice under? Would you rather be Vic and be under Penguin, or would you rather be the teen and be under Agatha? And we got new episodes of both shows, so we can recontextualize our answers a little bit. This show didn't really give us much Vic. I mean, he wasn't in this episode, so I don't know that our answers will change much on Vic. We still got the same amount of information, but we got a pretty significant teen episode, last Agatha. So C, the expert on both, I'm gonna ask you, what has your answer changed, or who would you rather mentor under, Agatha or Oz?
So, knowing what we know about Teen, and I won't spoil it because we're not talking about that after show right now. So I don't know who's watching what, who's where, right? But I will say I'm still picking Teen, but my reason behind picking Teen is slightly changed. I do still feel like Agatha wouldn't really. I feel like Teen's safer with Agatha than Vic is with Penguin. But in the event that something does go sour and there's a battle that takes place, I feel that Teen is more capable of defending himself against Agatha than Vic would be defending himself against the Penguin, if that makes sense. I feel like the Penguin will find a way or has the connections to get rid of Vic. Vic, who's like, there's still nobody, at this point, where Teen is someone with abilities and maybe he stands a fighting chance. So I'm going to go with Vic. I'm going to go with Teen because I just in case he feel like he can handle it.
I got you. D, what's your best guess, just based on what you know? Who do you think you would mentor under?
You said who I would mentor.
Under. Who would you want as a mentor? Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I will say this. I'll just say this. If I'm going to go off of, either the end of the last episode, beginning of this episode, then I might have to just jump over the Teen just for that alone. Because I was just like, if you put me in Sophia's crosshairs, someone who just murked her entire family, then maybe I'd be better off with Agatha.
You both give very good reasoned arguments, and that is the sane answer. That is the responsible answer. That is not my answer. I definitely and my thing is I'm gonna pick Vic, but I'm only picking Vic because if I'm mentoring under either one of these people, and let's say Agatha dies, right? Teen will be okay. Teen can go on and study and learn, and all the things he's trying to learn, he could conceivably learn without Agatha. Very easily, he could learn without Agatha. But Vic, I think if something happened to Oz, then Vic is kind of lost. Like without Oz, he is not as proficient. He's not as intelligent. He's not not intelligent, but he's not as knowledgeable. He doesn't have the resources. So I think that being under Oz is more of a benefit. Like I think at the end of this, Vic will be better because being under Oz than Teen will be specifically being under Agatha. I think Teen will be great, but I think he'll be great regardless. I think Vic will be great specifically because he was hanging around with Oz. And so I'm like, that's why I think that being under Oz would probably be the most net benefit specifically, because Teen could go mentor under any witch and get the same thing.
Mm-hmm. All right. Right now, if you want to die, go ahead and pick Vic.
Well, that somebody might have already died over there.
Yeah.
Might have come back. But you know what? We're gonna have to have a crossover after show. But that's this episode. That's all from beginning to end. And I appreciate y'all coming to talking Penguin with me. Appreciate everybody in the chat who engaged and watched. We're gonna be back every week. D, tell them where they can find you and what you got going on, what you got coming up.
Yes. Hello, everyone. This is the Movie Man, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. That is the constant tagline that you will find and hear when you check out my channel. I enjoy talking about all things film. I enjoy delving into the occasional TV show, and I like getting into a good old trailer reaction here and there. As far as recent videos, upcoming videos, I have recently given my thoughts on Saturday Night, which of course is the wild story of the 90 minutes behind the first episode / pilot of Saturday Night Live. I also did a recent review on Wolf, starring George Clooney and Brad Pitt. And I just, that was this morning, actually. I just knocked out my review for Mr. Crockett, which was a very interesting and unique film. I'm also hoping to get a little bit more into I don't know. I think I just need to dip into my horror bag a little bit more. I enjoy horror, but I always seem to struggle with getting horror content out. So I think I'm going to come, since we are in the season. I will definitely be coming up with some things to highlight my appreciation of horror, because it definitely is a genre I have a lot of love for. So please feel free to check me out at capital D / MOVIEMAN. You can also find me at D Movie Man, no spaces, on Instagram as well.
That's what's up. But yeah, it's October, so there's no better time to get in your horror bag.
Yeah.
See what you got going on. Tell them where to find you and what you got coming up.
All right. So my name is See the Superior on all platforms. You can find me here on YouTube. Tomorrow night, me and my friends over at Unpopular Review Entertainment, we're going to be discussing Superman and Lois. So if you are into the CW and the Arrowverse, join me tomorrow night at around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're talking about episode 3 of the final season of Superman and Lois. And on Wednesday, earlier on Wednesday, I'm going to be a guest. I'm going to be a guest on the Gardens of Doom podcast. It's an audio podcast on Spotify, so check that out. It's called Gardens of Doom. And later on Wednesday, because it's Agatha Day, I'm going to be discussing Agatha immediately after the show. So roughly around 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be talking about Agatha. And if you're into book reading, I do a monthly book review / discussion with my friends. This month, because it's spooky season, we're doing like a spooky-esque book. It's called The Great and Terrible Beauty. I read it years and years ago when I was like in 9th grade, guys. So it's been a long time. So we're going to be discussing that on Halloween. So join me at See the Superior for that. And yeah, that's what I got coming up.
That is what's up. And this is Screen Static Studios, and I'm Dom, and we talk about everything here. I just dropped every Monday I drop a Let's Talk About It. So where I'll pick a hot take basically, or an opinion I have, and we talk about it. And I just dropped this morning Why Batman on brand. Why Batman is bad for Gotham and needs to leave. And then last week was why Scarlet Witch was the villain the whole time. And next week we're gonna talk about what's wrong with the Jurassic Park franchise. And then every week we'll be back here talking about the Penguin, and that's what's going on. So thanks for stopping by, and we will catch you guys next time.
Hey.